morning, everybody. Mestre Vibes coming to you from Tokyo, Japan. Mestre Vibes, episode 56. This morning, I just decided to jump right into our podcast because there's a couple of things I wanted to share. One being something that I feel is very important, and the other is also important, but more light, and I'll start with that first. So, over the weekend, I thought a lot about how to improve communication in Capoeira Zoador, in my Capoeira group. Throughout my life, 100% of the problems that I've ever encountered in human relationships comes from when there's a breakdown in communication. If people aren't communicating and being mature enough to talk to each other and share experiences, then people begin to have animosity, egos get involved, and problems arise. So what I want to talk today is something that I feel as a leader of Capoeira Zoador, my Capoeira group, I feel that the traditional role of a mestre, the old school style, I don't mean it's a bad thing, but the old school style is really not, is moving from ego and really lack of communication. I have a golden rule. If I've said it, then you're responsible for it. That's why you guys see I put out so much stuff about how things work, group membership, how to run a group, leadership. I talk about this stuff a lot. And it's because communication, and once I put it out there, it's no longer my fault. And I'll tell you guys why. Because generally people are moody. I've seen so many examples that when, for example, if I'm clear in my communication and a student doesn't like it and they leave, it is more likely than not that another student, their friend, will not leave. Because a lot of times, a lot of complaints that I hear or a lot of confusion that comes in relationships is, for example, I had a friend who was a dance teacher and there was some sleeping around in the group. And when the one girl or guy left, I'm not sure, I can't remember, it's a while back, but other people left too. And they kind of blamed it on the group dynamics, not taking responsibility and saying, hey, we created these group dynamics. We did this. And of course, things are different. Like, I really believe Capoeira is a martial art, and group dynamics and all those personal feelings things need to be left to the side after the group. But when people put the social first, something I always communicate, when people put the social first, they will sacrifice communication in order to maintain relationships. So when people sacrifice communication to maintain relationships is where you get a lot of the problems, where you get a lot of the people like, oh, you didn't say, I didn't know, that person didn't do this person didn't say that, this person felt this way. And that's because of lack of communication. And one thing that I'm very a strong supporter of is that you have to communicate. If you don't communicate from the top down, other people won't. For example, somebody might say, well, Master, you're communicating really well, and you're doing this and you're doing that. Some people are not good at communication. But honestly, it's no longer my problem. If I'm communicating and doing the best, I cannot force other people to communicate. More than that, like I said, you walk into my academia, the first thing you see on the wall is a rule written by kids' handwriting. And it says, ways not to irritate or piss off Mestre Vibes. Number one, Mestre Vibes is not a babysitter. You are responsible for your own progress and motivation in Capoeira. Of course, I want to have a good class. I want to be inspiring and all that. But I can't be responsible 100% for people's motivation. They also have to do it. And it's really important that this all stems from really good communication. So I really feel that if I've said something, then it is no longer my responsibility, unless it's something that directly relates to me. Because a lot of people who don't know how to communicate or lack communication skills end up feeling like, oh, they're the victim. We need to get past this. The real world is people say it's victim blaming, but if you want to get anything done, you can't do that. People don't trust people who carry a victim mentality. You cannot be trusted if people think you are unreliable. And the highest level of unreliability is victimhood. When you say I'm the victim, oh, my teacher's like this, or I didn't get this cordon because of this, or the other students talk to me like this, or I feel this way. That's all you. So you need to communicate or move on. So this weekend, I did something that I thought was really good, inclusive of what I do here on Patreon, is I was talking to Gojira, who's a advanced student in Thailand, really good with like homepage design and all those kind of things. He works in IT. And we were talking how to create a forum for Capoeira Zoador active members. So what I did is I created a forum, and the forum we decided on is going to be, I made a new account called Capoeira Zoador Vivencia on Instagram. I hope everyone who's an active Capoeira Zoador member joins. It would also be interesting to see how many like active members, are on Instagram with me. So I'll be pushing that out there this week and trying to get everybody who's an active Capoeira Zoador member, adult, around the world to become part of that. You have to, You have to request to be admitted to my page. Like, I guess follow my page. It's not a group, it's a page. So on Instagram, because everybody uses Instagram, very few people are using Facebook anymore. And I'll be doing more stuff on there. My goal is to do like what I'm doing here on Patreon, share the same material that I create here on Patreon, and then trickle it down into the Capoeira Zoador Vivencia on Instagram. If you're here on Patreon, you're just automatically a current active member. So if you want to see what I'm doing on that, some of it will be repetitive, but I will be focusing more on Capoeira Zoador quality and Capoeira Zoador leadership and preparation. As I've mentioned 1,000 times before, my job isn't to babysit. My job is to try to make every single person who joins Capoeira Zoador the best capoeira player they can be. And I have to assume everyone wants to be a mestre or a mestra, so I have to do my best to prepare them for that. Whether they do it or not is not my choice. It's their choice as an individual. But I have to give the best quality, the best opportunities, and the best information that I can as a mestre of capoeira. And this is something that I feel is very important, because a lot of times we see that people who work in the service industry like I do, like what I call non-tangible service industries like karate, capoeira, jiu-jitsu, things that you physically cannot touch, products, that you pay for a service for a feeling that you're getting better, that you're getting something out of it, that we need to have a really good essence or sense of unity and of communication, and more importantly, that I'm doing my best to take everyone forward. So that new group is on Instagram, Capoeira Zoador Vivencia, or I think it just says Zoador Vivencia. If you have any questions and you can't find it, just hit me up here on Patreon or hit me up here on an email. I'm always happy to mentor. Now in Capoeira, we say a lot about padrinos. Padrinos are the people who are like godfathers or godmothers to a group or to a teacher. And I'm doing that a lot, and it's just mentorship. So hopefully I can do the best I can do. Great. The next thing, before I jump into, what was I going to talk? Oh, the main topic today is I will be in August, somewhere in the second week of August. The second weekend of August, I will be in Colorado Springs to be part of Mestre Benchino's incredibly amazing event. And Capoeira, I will be there doing workshops in Afro-Brazilian culture and dance and music, as well as capoeira. And I'm blessed and so grateful for being invited to be part of that event. So if you're in that area, let me know. If you're anywhere near there and can get a chance to come down and just say hi, even if we've never met, then I hope you guys come in. So it's going to be a fantastic week, the second weekend of August. Okay, now the main thing I wanted to talk today about, wow, it goes by fast. The main thing I wanted to talk about today is something that I saw on a podcast in Portuguese. Really good podcast called Vem Pra Roda. And it's interesting because the person that I was listening to, I can't remember who it was right offhand, but it said something, because there's a lot of podcasts. The mestre had said, the problem with today, especially with the internet, is in Portuguese, he said, informação contra formação, which I think the nuanced best way to say it would be the difference between getting information versus getting educated in the subject. So right now, one thing I'm always mentioning is Asia. In Korea, there's only Shiru, who's an incredible capoeirista, Brazilian. In Thailand, there's one guy that I heard of, but he's kind of like in the wind. And in Japan, I would say if there's 20 Brazilian capoeira teachers, I would be surprised. And that is a very stark contrast to the United States and Europe, where there's so many Brazilian capoeira teachers that the cultural side, good or bad, is present. Some people might say, well, there's a lot of things that are bad with that part because of the cultural background, the educative background of most of the people teaching capoeira coming from Brazil. But I look at it as not on that side, because you can cut people off. You don't need to be working with people who you don't like. Capoeira is freedom, and you can do basically whatever you want. But whether it works for you or doesn't, at the end of the day, is your choice. I'm not saying do whatever you want and it'll be okay. I'm saying you don't have to work with people you don't want. And the main aspect of this is that there's a lot of people in Asia. And I'm going to say this as my opinion as a cultural anthropologist and someone who's been involved with Brazilian cultural capoeira for over 35 years, is without the essence of Brazilian culture, it's a little different. It doesn't mean it's good or bad. It means it's different. Personally, I choose to have the Brazilian cultural aspect in it because that's what creates the axé. There's a certain energy that comes from that a light, a brilliance, an effulging effect that adds to capoeira when there's a Brazilian twang, swing, taste, flavor, ambiance, whatever you want to say. When there's something like that, it just makes the whole experience much better for me. And I can distinctly tell the difference when it hasn't and it hasn't. It's like having a cup of coffee and a sweet cup of coffee versus all black, dark, bitter. You can tell the difference because you've had it for many years. So I can tell when I like something, when I don't. It's my choice. If other people want to do it that way, and if other people want to be involved that way, that's fine. But I don't have the time to put into things that I'm not interested in. And fortunately, I'm at a point where I don't have to. The difference between information is that I feel in Asia especially, there is a lot of information because there is so little contact with the Brazilian side. I don't know any or heard of any teachers who have trained with their actual mestres or mestres more than 2 or 3 years who are in Japan. And I don't mean they've been part of that group and every year they go to the Bachizado, every year they pay their franchise fee, hint, hint. I'm talking about people who have had vivencia with their masteries. And a lot of times I can tell there's no vivencia, to grow into mentorship of their masters or mastras, because it's obvious. When you're someone who really does something wholeheartedly, and you start seeing other people doing things, and if there's holes in what they're doing, like it or not, as a professional, you see it. This is my professional job. I'm not talking about my feeling. I'm not talking about this. For example, if someone doesn't know how to play a pandero and they're a profesor, I can tell. I go, that guy's a profesor and he can't even play pandero? Wow. He fakes it. They fake it. But either or, it's going to come out in the wash. And whether you like it or not, it's going to come out in the wash. Maybe I've told this story before, but I was at an event and the teacher invited me, really nice. And I think that the person wanted me to support them infallibly. I come, I get money and say the guy's doing a great job. But that's not the way I operate. And I say, hey, look, can I tune this pandero? And the person had said, oh no, I like my pandero like that tuning. And I go, but it was so loose that I hit it twice with my thumb softly and it fell apart. Literally, the screws came off and the little latches that hold the head on fell off. I knew that was going to happen because I do this professionally. I'm not saying I'm the most professional. I'm not saying I'm the only professional. I'm saying that there is a basic standard. And anyone who has gone through any kind of formalized training or structured training, for example, if you were, let's say, under Mestre Accordion, I love Mestre Accordion. I'm going to see him in August. He'll be other person at the event, so I'm really excited. If you're going to say, oh, I'm really close to Mestre Accordion, I learned beating bow from Mestre Accordion, but then you can't do things that he does or generally have an understanding of what he's doing, then you're just saying you did. And this goes to that whole thing. Now, people complain a lot about people who just show up to bautizados to take a picture. They're creating information. They're getting a lot of information, but there's no understanding of how the information works, the context, or putting it into perspective, how to interpret the information. If I look at my own study as a cultural anthropologist, we had to study theory. These are the different theories of cultural anthropology. Each person will have and will tend to go towards a theory that they feel is more comfortable. But this is all part of education. And the big thing is there's a lot of information with very little education. I'm seeing so many things that don't connect, and you can tell when you're in the hall that when people are doing things. When people want us to think, I got to come up with an expression for something that's relevant directly here. I don't want to say, it's difficult. So I'm going to leave it there. I'll have to think of a really good thing for something I want to say, and maybe I'll put it into the next podcast. But today's main point is the difference between information, which everyone has access to, millions and millions of bits of information, versus education. All right. So let's see what we can do with that. And let's try to move forward with more education. And that's some of the stuff I'm going to be doing on Zuador Vivencia. I'm going to start with group leadership and the points of leadership, how to teach. There's so many things going on. And I hope to be the best mestre that I can be. All right, guys. Any comments or anything you want to say, send them my way. Mestre Sukuri, Tokyo, Japan, Mestre Vibes. Lots of love, lots of peace, lots of capoeira.